What's going on, guys? My name is Yellow SGK and welcome to some MXers ATV All Out. And this is episode 3 of my AMA Pro Motocross Championship series here, taking a first look at Spring Creek, or better known as Millville. Millville is one of my favorite tracks in the entire series. I've always enjoyed it, and what I can tell you is this one really showcases how rough these tracks can get. I think that's really the thing to take away from this track, especially when you're trying to evaluate this DLC, see what you think. Honestly, it's crazy how rough it gets, and it's really a ton of fun. It's a challenging track. It's probably one of the more difficult tracks in this DLC, but it's definitely rewarding when you hit sections right. You can fly through certain sections, but if you get it wrong, you get it really, really wrong. So hopefully you guys can kind of get a little bit of a first look here, seeing what this track is like. Again, one of my favorites. I just love the layout of this track and just the history. I remember so many good battles here. Big sand whoops. Sketchy as always. You can see already how rough this track is. This big sand section. Trying to find a little bit of a rhythm. Catching actually a rut there worked pretty nice. Again, through that second set of ruts. Ooh. Or sorry, second set of whoops. Heading towards the catapult. Hopefully you guys remember when Chad Reed was rolling down the windows, jumping off his bike on that one. Huge uphill triple. Little case, I didn't do any preload, I don't think. Maybe a little bit, but pretty big jump there. Oh, off the track. This is one of the more difficult sections here to try to get through clean. Got this little double and then the huge triple. You really have to hit that thing cleanly. Otherwise you're casing it and losing a shitload of time. You can see I even cased that step up there. That section is going to be where you gain and lose a lot of time. Now this is one of the ones that shows how rough this gets. Look at how crazy that is. I am slamming down that thing. It's a ton of fun. You got to lean back and let that bike move out from underneath you there. Pretty cool. It's nuts how rough they're able to get these tracks in the game, and not a whole bunch of mods and stuff, right? Like just a legitimate game that I didn't expect to see. I didn't expect to see pro motocross tracks here, especially with this type of detail and roughness and stuff. That's a pretty big table. This one I think you can just do a scrub. Yep, scrub into the corner. So much fun to scrub. Land a little sideways to help you get into the corner. This section's always cool where you're just flat out again. Just keep an eye on how rough this track is. Who would have guessed, right? If I had to bet money, they bring these tracks to the game. I did not think that it was going to be rough and detailed like it is here. I mean, look at the crowd everywhere. There's like food trucks with smoke pouring out from them and stuff in the crowd. Like there is some serious detail if you try to take the time and look around. Just really, really cool. Kind of hard to catch the AI. Oh, getting into one of the barriers there. Ooh, that made me lose some serious time through these whoops. I call them sand rollers, I guess. They're not really whoops. I've always called them rollers. Again, the catapult, pretty big, and then let's preload a little bit. Actually, let's do a big old preload on this. Oh, I actually got kicked sideways there. Shit! We almost catapulted on the jump after it. Here's that difficult section, though. You gotta make sure you get through this corner clean, or you're done for. Ooh, this might not work because I didn't get the double. Let's see. A little bit of a case, but not terrible. But you can see how you really do have to hit that super, super clean to get through there. I might not catch many of the AI on this one. Look how rough that is. Slam on the brakes, almost going down. Should have got on the brakes a little earlier because of how rough it is. Kind of bouncing around a little bit. I think it's one of those tracks, kind of like I've said in a lot of like Reflex custom track reviews, where it gets rough enough that I think if you are trying to fight it the whole way, you're not going to go very fast. But if you're trying to get a nice rhythm and you're bouncing off those braking bumps and really making them work for you, then you're going to have a nice flow. But if you're just fighting them and slamming against everything and kind of pissed off, you're going to be going slow. But man, if you're doubling those braking bumps and just using them to your advantage, that's when you're going to be going fast on this track. And it's hard to get in that groove. It's hard to get in that mindset. But, you know, when you hit a few sections clean like that, you start realizing like, oh, okay. You just got to ride this a little bit differently. And I think this is really the epitome of that. I think one thing I'm noticing with all of these tracks, the AMA Pro Motocross Championship tracks, I'm noticing that they all have their own characteristics. Like I said, this one is really, I think, the rough showcase, if you ask me, as far as the ones I've played so far. Washougal is more like, hey, look at all these sweet scrub jumps and the visuals of the going through the forest, the shadows. It's pretty unique there. This one's more like, look at the track. You know, I mean, don't get me wrong. Look left and right. There's fans everywhere. Like I said, food trucks, banners, the whole shebang. You can see the smoke pouring up over there. Try to look to the left here. I believe that's a food truck. Might not be able to. Yeah, you're not gonna be able to see it, but just so cool to have that atmosphere. But this one, again, I think the thing that's really sick. That was a really cool section. It's just how rough it is. Really cool. So here's that difficult section again. Got to carry a lot of speed through there to get the double. And then if you get the double, you can over jump this thing. So you can see it's a little finicky, but that's good. You know, it means that you got to figure out that sweet spot. And again, that's where the fast guys are really going to find that happy medium everywhere and be able to fly on these tracks. So there's really that level where if you're riding these tracks cleanly, and like I said, you're bouncing through those braking bumps cleanly, you're hitting all the ruts how you should, the difficult sections, you're carrying that momentum and you're not losing speed by having to go slow and then preload massively. If you can fly into some of this stuff and not have to preload and just throw a scrub, you're saving time, right? So that's where I think these tracks will be really rewarding, because they really do invite that type of detail that's required from your riding. And hopefully that makes sense. Hope you guys know where I'm coming from there. Almost went over the bars. It just shows how rough it is, and that's really cool. I always love rough tracks like custom tracks and reflex, because it gives you the opportunity to maybe separate yourself from the other people. Now, keep in mind, I'm no pro at All Out. I just haven't put enough time into it recently, but I'm starting to realize I think this might be the moto game that I start putting a little bit more time into, for various reasons, and not just because of these tracks, but I'll tell you what, these tracks sure do help. These tracks are just unbelievable, and I don't really know how else to say that without sounding like I'm shilling for them. It's like I am not getting paid by any of those guys over there. This is all just my own thoughts on this track and on this DLC. I wouldn't steer you guys wrong. Like I said in the previous video, I was not a fan of Supercross Encore. I was pretty blunt on my feelings on the game. I didn't play it, and I really don't plan on ever touching that game again. Who knows? But I don't plan on touching it. It wasn't for me, and I would tell you guys the exact same thing if I felt that way in this game, and I really don't. In fact, I'm starting to realize maybe I'm missing out by not diving into this game and appreciating it for what it is. Look at those ruts. Again, that difficult section, you gotta carry speed. I don't know if I did there. I actually preloaded a little bit. Let's see if we can still get over. Nice, barely. So you gotta get that double beforehand. Yeah, there's definitely a fast and slow way to get through that section, and I don't just mean clearing the jumps. Even if you clear things and you're doing big preloads on it all, you're in rough shape. You're gonna lose so much time because you're just floating up in the air. Let's go outside this time. Ooh, that's a little smoother. Again, I haven't put enough time into these tracks to really figure out those really killer lines, right? I'm kind of learning these tracks as I'm making the videos, because I just can't help myself. I want to make the video because they're just that good. But I can tell definitely on this track especially, I'm going to increase my speed significantly by finding those sweet lines, those happy spots where you're just, you know, you can carry a little bit more speed, not slow up for the silly inside, but just rail the outside, stuff like that. But I'm really just shocked at how good these tracks are. And this one, again, I think that showcase really is just how rough it gets. I never thought that we'd have a track that looks like this. I mean, if you took a picture, even through this section, and there's other sections like the big downhill, if you took a picture of it, I think you'd see like, holy crap, like that's an all out? No way. I think that would be kind of the general consensus. So they're definitely doing something right over there, and I think they're really putting a lot of hard work into making some stuff that the fans are going to like. And that's something that's really special about those guys, I think. They're really continuing to work on a game and bring content to the crowd and all the fans that we really want. Let's be honest. Who would have thought that they were going to all of a sudden be having the AMA Pro Motocross Championship tracks into this game? Like, I never would have thought that would have happened. I would have thought that'd be part of another game, or another company would get the rights for it or something. But these guys are going out there and hustling and working hard and trying to bring content to their game that they believe in, and showing us, hey, check this out. This rides really well, and if you're a motocross fan, you're really snoozing on this game if you're really looking past it, which I think a lot of us have. Let's be honest. I lost a little bit of my drive for this game, and it's coming back tenfold, and it's really because of these tracks. I love the whips. They're fun. It's something different. You know, we all have our own opinion on that, but when it really boils down to it, add those whips, these physics into a game that requires you to have a little more detail. Even there, I should have slowed up, got into the rut, and it's not just slammed through it like I think a lot of people thought this game originally was. You really do have to have that detail to ride quickly, and these tracks really bring that out, which is just so cool. So anyway, hopefully you guys dig this, and hopefully you guys are trying to go out there and pick up this DLC. I definitely recommend it if you can't tell already. It's pretty special, very high quality content, and something I definitely want to support. You know, people bringing the AMA Pro Motocross Championship tracks to a game is something that we all dream about, and here they are bringing it to us here in All Out. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it, and until next time, I will talk to you later. Peace out.